Hi, my name's Laura Berg, and with me today I have Jessica Cole, and she is a registered dietitian and lactation consultant, and she's here to talk about food and when to start feeding your baby and how to do it and what to do it. And thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so tell me, I guess the biggest question that parents would have, or that I had when I was starting to figure out whether I should feed my baby or not feed my baby, is it too soon? Is when? When is a good time to start feeding your baby?
Well, like you've heard before, every baby's different. So we say usually at around 6 months of age is whenever children are ready to start eating solids. And that's to complement the breast milk that they've been getting and will continue to be getting throughout the first few months or years of their life. And so for some it might be a little bit before 6 months, and some of them it might be a little bit after 6 months. How it happened for me personally is whenever I was having a dinner with my family, my sister had my daughter sitting on her lap and she was around 6 months. My daughter grabbed a piece of tortilla off of her plate and started sucking on it.
Uh,
And then everyone looked at me thinking, asking me like, is this the right time? Should we let her be? So that was a pretty clear sign that she was getting there. She was starting to get ready to eat.
so you
Um,
find when they show interest in food is a good indication.
Yes, definitely. That's an indication. Other indications might be whenever the baby has a little bit more head control, and that they can sit up straight and lean in to show interest in whenever you're eating. And another sign is whenever they can pick up something like food or anything or a toy, and you can see that they're directing it directly to their mouth. They're bringing the object directly to their mouth.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, along the same lines, how about when babies tend to be waking at night for feeds? Is that an indication, or is that just a baby wanting that comfort?
Well, it depends. You hear a lot of times is that my baby's been waking up during the night. I guess that's why the baby's ready to eat solids, and that's not necessarily an indication that they're ready for solids. They could be waking for so many different reasons. It's too cold. It's too hot. They, you know, they have a bad dream. They're going through a growth spurt, and so they could be waking for so many different reasons. So it's not necessarily a sign that they're ready to start eating solids.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. What kind of food should parents start with?
Well, everyone does this a little bit differently. What I found that works really well for my clients is the baby-led weaning approach. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
I heard of it recently. It wasn't so popular when my kids were eating, but you know what? I think now that I know about it, my son probably would have been doing better at this than my daughter was. And my son didn't eat um, purified food. He didn't care for it. So, explain what it is though for parents who don't know what it is.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really, it seems like it's really popular these days. Basically, it's more of a hands-off approach where you offer pieces of food and to your baby right from the start, and you let them feed themselves
Right.
at their own pace, rather than pureeing your food and offering it to them with a spoon.
Right.
So a lot of, I mean, for the baby-led weaning approach, they talk about offering foods that are safe for the baby from your plate, and you want to focus on foods that have a lot of iron. You've heard that probably before. Iron at around 6 months of age, the baby's iron stores get a little bit lower.
Right.
So foods like meat, like chicken or beef or veal or lamb, those are good foods that have a lot of iron that are good to start with. Also some cereals. If you're vegetarian, you can offer some legumes like um, lentils or chickpeas. You can offer some tofu, eggs. All of those have a lot of iron and are some appropriate good foods to start with.
Great. Now, with that, we'll talk about the baby-led feeding for a minute. Um, I would think that my number one concern would be choking.
Definitely. That is the most common question I get during my workshops. Basically, if the child, or I guess if the infant at 6 months old is sitting straight and there's minimal distractions, um, the baby at that age has a gagging reflex. And the gagging reflex actually prevents the baby from choking. So it's really interesting. Before they choke, they'll actually gag. It takes me or any parent a little while to get used to what does gagging look like.
Yeah.
They just kind of go like that and bring up the food, and it doesn't ever seem to bother the baby. As long as a parent, you're offering the safe foods for your child right from the start. With a baby-led weaning approach, they're learning to feed themselves really in a safe manner. So taking smaller bites and chewing and taking their time.
Right. Now you say safe. What is safe? What do you mean by safe? The size or the texture or the...
Well, we recommend to just start giving foods that you can squish between your fingers, that those are safe. So something like a piece of fruit that's soft, like a banana, that's really safe. You can give, you could roast vegetables, anything that you can squish between your fingers. You want to stay away from foods like raw carrots or raw apples. Those for sure. You can grate those instead, or you can boil them or steam them to make them easier to give to your baby. You want to stay away from raisins or popcorn or small hard candies.
Right.
Obviously, you don't want to give that to an
No. Yeah.
You want to also stay away from the thickly spread nut butters because it's really thick and it could stick to their throat. And so you want to stay away from those foods.
Now, is there a way to introduce food? Like I remember when I had my daughter, it was, you introduce one thing every kind of few days to see if she's going to have an allergic reaction to it. So what's the sort of standard today? Is that the same?
Actually, the recommendations changed recently, and Health Canada changed the recommendations. Actually, what I learned in school was completely different from what I recommend now.
Always the case, isn't it?
It is.
Now, you said Health Canada, do you find that it's the same recommendations in the U.S.?
In the U.S., I'm not quite sure. I just know Health Canada right now, the recommendations have changed. I'd have to look into it actually for the top current recommendations.
Right. Okay. So what is it that you know here then?
So yeah, for the what's hot off the press is that at 6 months of age, if the foods are introduced at 6 months of age, not earlier, there's no need to start to have an order of foods or to wait a few days between each food. Because in the past, what was recommended was start solids between 4 and 6 months, and that was a little bit too early, is what we realized after a bunch of research. So what we recommend now is if it's after 6 months, you don't have to wait. If you're just to be cautious, if you're a little bit worried, you could wait to see. So then, if you introduce one food and that's the only food you've introduced within the last 3 days, and the baby has an allergic reaction, then you know what food it is. But the recommendations have changed for allergy, like foods that cause allergies, like nuts or fish or foods like that, or eggs. The recommendations, you can start giving those foods at 6 months of age.
Really?
And that would actually prevent the food allergies in children later on in life.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. I'm surprised. So now they're recommending that you do that. Because I know in my mummy groups, a lot of the babies had, especially egg insensitivities or allergies.
Yeah, definitely. So the new research now is that, like back in the day, it was wait till they're a year to start egg yolks.
Right.
And so now the recommendation is if you introduce it after 6 months, if you introduce it earlier, like at 6 months, that's the recommendation. They should have less chance of getting allergies in the future.
Wow, that's great information. I really didn't know that. Now you say after 6 months, so you had said that you could potentially start feeding a baby, a little bit sooner if they seem ready. Would you recommend specific foods during that period before 6 months, or
I say
still?
around 6 months because it could be just a few weeks earlier. Not something like before 5 months. Usually they're not ready
Right.
for foods before 5 months. But I'm also saying a little bit after 6 months because some kids aren't ready for solids for 7 or 8 months, and that's okay.
I remember my daughter was spot on. Like, she was ready, she wanted food, and I did the whole pureed food, which I want to share with parents is still a way of feeding your baby. It's just there's different options now, but pureed food is still a very popular way to feed your baby, and that's what I did. And my daughter was ready, and she wanted it, and my son, not at all. He had no interest, and it caused me a lot of stress actually because he wasn't eating and he wasn't eating, and he was nursing, and I was worried about the whole iron depletion thing and what was I going to do. And I went to my pediatrician. I was very stressed out about it. And then finally, my pediatrician actually said not to worry too much until he hit a year. And then she basically said feed him anything, whatever he would eat, because he was losing weight at that point. So what advice would you have for, say, picky eaters?
Yeah, for picky eaters, I mean, babies and toddlers' appetite varies so much. So sometimes it could be that, some days they won't eat anything, and you'll wonder, like, how can they survive without any food just the whole day?
Yes.
Yeah, and some days they'll eat so much, and you wonder, how did that fit into their stomach?
Yeah, exactly.
So much. And it's really interesting because they could just survive, and there's so many ups and downs with their appetite. Their appetite could vary because of their general mood. Maybe they're tired. Just their social environment could be really affecting their appetite. They might be doing more physical activity or growing faster on that day. So picky eaters, I have a few recommendations. Say general recommendations could be to start with really small servings and allow them to ask for more. So I find that baby sign language works really well at the table because it increases the communication between the mom and the baby. And so you offer small quantities of a food, of just one particular food, and you ask the baby more. And when they're hungry, they're more hungry, you can give them more. So what I recommend also for picky eaters is, say, you know that the baby really likes to eat a particular food. Say baby really loves broccoli, but does not want to touch anything else. Well, maybe at one meal, what you can do is you can make sure to offer the broccoli, or probably chances are that's not the food that they love.
Actually, my daughter did. She loved broccoli.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So just make sure at every meal that you offer that food that they like, and so maybe that will open their appetite to more foods. And it might take 10 times before they will actually try it, but just continue offering it to them without pushing, just encouraging them to eat and showing them the example that you're eating the food, and eventually they'll hopefully try that food. And talking about baby sign language at the table, other signs that I find that are really helpful at the table, even starting at 6 months, is whenever they're hungry, you could do eat.
Right.
Or whenever they're finished, all done. And it's important as a parent to really listen to those cues that the baby is hungry or full. And it really helps us understand and communicate with them and avoid overfeeding them.
Right. I so love right now that you're all about the baby signing and talking about that. That's fantastic. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Okay, so we talked about allergies, just back to that quickly. Is there anything that parents should avoid?
So, like I mentioned, those foods that you can choke on, that the babies can choke on, you want to avoid those. And as well, you want to avoid honey for the first year of age.
Right. How about strawberries? Because
honey
honey was when my daughter was around 2, when she was born, they said no honey. strawberries were another one that they said not to feed until a year. Has that changed?
Strawberries are okay.
They're okay. Interesting. Yeah. So that makes life so much easier.
It does, and especially during strawberry season.
Yeah, when they're so good.
Yeah.
Well, this is really great information, and I really thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise with the parents who are watching my channel. If you want more information from Jessica about feeding and whatnot, visit her website. It's jessicacole.com. I'll put it up on the screen here for you, and I will also put a link in the description. And you offer phone consultation, right, to parents who maybe aren't in your area that have questions?
Yep, definitely. Phone, what's really popular is the online consultations as well. We can do FaceTime or Skype, and that works really well, especially for parents that are not living close to where I am, and also parents that are busy and that just need a quick consultation over the internet.
Right. That's perfect. You gotta love the internet. I'm connected with people all over the world as a result of it. So this is really good. Well, I again appreciate having you on the show, and please visit Jessica's website for more information. And thanks again, Jessica.
Thank you, Laura.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye for now.